Welcome, welcome, our Z100 Artist Interview Lounge presented by Celsius Energy. I'm Crystal Rosas, and today from launching a student magazine at 16 to building Virgin into one of the world's most iconic brands, this important person has been breaking boundaries for his entire life. Signed legends like the Rolling Stones, Janet Jackson, broken records in balloons and boats, launched airlines, cruise ships, mobile networks, even their own space company. The best-selling author, award-winning filmmaker, global philanthropist, and the most followed person on LinkedIn. He's also a proud husband, father, and grandfather, known for his adventurous spirit and bold business moves. To celebrate Virgin Voyages' brand new ship, the Brilliant Lady, a conversation with Sir Richard Branson.
Nice to meet you, and particularly since you've got a beautiful Virgin Records T-shirt on, which is I haven't seen for many years. Sadly, the Virgin megastores disappeared a few years ago, but lots of good memories.
I know that those stories and just diving into your lore, which just spans beyond documentaries and books and everything you've been able to accomplish. Thank you so much for being here. We're celebrating something awesome that you just disembarked in yesterday. How did it feel to have that journey on your new baby, the Brilliant Lady?
It was brilliant.
Awesome.
The ship is called Brilliant. That's why I'm name dropping it. No, we've. I think sometimes when the company has struggled, and we launched Virgin Voyages the week COVID broke out, so we had two ships which we had to mothball for 18 months. Not many years later, to see all four ships, just covering 120 different places in the world, the Mediterranean, the Caribbean. This ship will, do New York, the Bahamas. It'll do the Panama Canal. It'll go up to Alaska. It'll do, Canada. So, it's been wonderful now to see it. Virgin Voyages winning all the awards, and wonderful, happy staff, and happy sailors as well.
And that's something that's important too. You're always talking about how you find pride in the people that work with Virgin, and you and your brand, they're proud of it, which is so cool and so different, especially in such a capitalist society that Americans we come from. But a lot of that comes from, you always talk about growing up and treating people with kindness, that your parents, especially your mom, you would get reprimanded if you guys talked bad about someone. You'd be put on timeout if you were mean to someone. Why do you think that stuck with you with all these years and with everything that you've been able to accomplish?
First of all, I think it's the right thing to do, but I think it's also a good business thing to do, because if people are proud of the ship they're working on, they're proud that if you give them the tools to do a great job, if you make sure that they're smiling all the time, and they're happy, and they know if they have an issue they'll be listened to, then the passengers and sailors that come on board the ship will have a great time. But if you treat people badly, then they're not going to smile, and then your sailors are not going to come back for more. So, and life's a lot more fun running companies where everybody are happy and smiling, than running companies based on fear.
Mm-hmm. And now that you've been able to cruise on your baby, the Brilliant Lady, what are some of the funnest parts of the ship that you were able to experience?
Every corner you turn is a surprise. So, last night I was, playing chess on a giant chessboard, and then playing pickleball, and then going on the running track around the top of the ship. They've got 4 fantastic restaurants, main restaurants, and 22 other places for people to eat, with some of the best chefs in the world working there. We don't have sort of queues for people wanting to get buffets, so it's all waitress and waiter service. The entertainment is to die for. I mean, it's as good as anything that you'd get here in New York. So we have 7 shows running at any one time, including, I've just learned, going to be a show on all the Virgin bands coming up in October, November. So I'm going to come back for that one. And you know, the rooms are great. I mean, I don't know. It's just a fun adults only ship, and you know, and the reason we went adults only was, you know, if you want to take your kids on a cruise, go to Disney. If you know want a break from your kids, your grandkids, go on Virgin. And there's, you know, initially I wasn't sure whether, you know, people would be offended by that, but actually, you know, people love to be able to have a break occasionally and sneak off for a few days.
Something that you always talk about how is you love to take notes and you love to hear feedback from people and implement that. So when you were cruising yourself on other cruise lines and you noticed that there are some things that were lacking, what are some things on Virgin Voyages that you feel like you hit that and you are excelling at?
So, so when I'm on a Virgin voyage, I will just experience it to the full myself, and if something's not 100% right, I'll, you know. So I have an ice bath every morning, and the ice bath I was using wasn't as cold as I think an ice bath should be to really wake you up. So hopefully tomorrow morning it will be icy and cold, and so we can now give people a choice between a cold bath and an ice bath, and I just find that's a great way of waking up in the mornings. And so, you know, if you're looking out for all the little details you can when you're if you're running a company as you go around, and just, you know, deal with them straight away. I mean, I just went into a shop on Virgin Voyages. About 50% of people who travel on Virgin Voyages, they book again while they're on the ship for another cruise. But there was no signage, you know, to make it clear. You know, where they was just looked like a nice office, and so, you know, you know, when you're building something new, you just got to keep your eyes open and look for these little details.
I think that's so important because a lot of the times when I'm out, even when I go to the bathroom and using toilet paper, I think, did the person that put this in or make this ever use this? It's the worst contraption ever.
Yeah.
And if creators just actually used the things that they make,
Yeah,
it would be so much better for everyone.
If somebody runs the Virgin company, I will say, you know, if you're running a hotel, say, you need to sleep in every single room when it's empty. And that's the way to find out, you know, what needs to be fixed. You know, if you sit down to go to the loo and they've gone and put something on the right where your knee is, you know, which they often do, and you think, you know, so I'm a stickler for detail, because little things, if you get rid of all those little niggly things in any business, you then become an exceptional company. And then, you know, Virgin Atlantic, we started 40 years ago with one plane. 40 years later, we're still flying because, you know, we get the details right, and that means that our crew don't have people complaining or, you know, to them, and they smile, and more people come back for more.
I can imagine that you get pitched on the street all the time, different ideas from people that, you know, believe in what they believe in. Which ones stick out to you, or maybe those interactions where you're like, yeah, I want to get in on that, like, now?
So we do something called the elevator pitch. Actually, I think we're doing one in New York tomorrow at our hotel. So I think that if somebody pitches an idea, you should be able to decide within a couple of minutes whether it's a good or a bad idea. So, you know, the idea is that they can get on Virgin hotels New York, and they've got to give us that idea before they get to the top of the elevator.
Wait, you go up?
Yeah, I mean, we actually, from a convenience point of view, we do it just outside the elevator,
okay, yeah.
but we give them that amount of time to pitch, and so, you know, so that the wonderful thing is that, you know, there's so many people with great ideas. Generally speaking, people tell them that they're you know, not to try those ideas, and you just have to encourage people to give it a go. You know, they may fall flat in the face the first time, and if they've come up with an idea that is going to make other people's lives better, then, you know, they have a shot with it. And we have an organisation called Virgin Startup Loans that gives loans, has given loans to about 8 or 9,000 people who've come to us and pitched ideas that we like, and then we'll give them mentors to help them, and it's a charity, and help them get started.
Something that was really interesting that I learned about you was that you had the opportunity to invest in that housing crisis bubble in 2008 that led the recession, and you were reading the details and you just felt like it was confusing and didn't make sense. And later on, and I mean, everyone got sued for that and it was a huge issue, but your point to that story was to follow your intuition and gut. Were there other standout moments in your career where you were really proud that you did follow your gut and not dive into something?
So I think the important thing in your life is to do what you believe to be right, and if you ever do anything that you feel to be questionable, you're going to rue the day one day. So all you have in your life is your reputation, and you've got to treasure your reputation. So Virgin will only go into creating things that we can be really proud of, and that all the other Virgin companies can be really proud that that's the new thing that we're doing, so for instance we're looking at competing to Europe with a new train service through the Channel Tunnel, and it's very expensive to go on Eurostar at the moment, and it needs competition because they haven't had competition for 30 years. So so if we do something like that, I think we can deliver, and I think it means that when people fly from New York to London, they can then go on by train, having spent a few days in London, to Paris or to Brussels or to other cities.
Mm-hmm. In 2017, you said that if you were to be a king for a day, you would do just that, just make more competition for businesses, that there's just not enough, and you feel like the laws don't incentivize that. Do you have any other ideas now in 2025 if you were to be king for a day?
If I could be king for the day, I would definitely like to sit down with President Putin and tell him that he's just being thoroughly selfish, and what he's doing in Ukraine is horrendous, and in this day and age, we should not be going to war with each other, we spend quite a lot of time. I've spent quite a lot of time in Ukraine, trying to help with some wonderful organizations there. Like there's 80,000 people who've lost arms and legs there that need prosthetics. So basically, if I had a magic wand, I would attempt to influence some of these people who have really messed up in this world.
Mm-hmm. And you've been able to talk to so many other powerful and incredible people around the world. Is there anyone that you haven't had, other than him, the chance to talk with, that you admire, that you would love to have a conversation with?
I think that Netanyahu in Israel, I would like to have a word with, because I think that Hamas have been horrendous, but I think the approach he's making in Palestine is wrong. Mm-hmm. And he's not winning over any friends around the world. He's doing an enormous amount of harm and creating a lot of misery. And I think a two-state solution, with Palestine having the dignity of their own state and Israel having the dignity of its own state, should be something that we should all strive for. And that's something we are actually working on.
Thank you for that. What about people that you have met that you were surprised were really big fans of you, that you just did not expect?
I'm not sure whether he was a big fan of mine, but I was lucky enough to get to know Nelson Mandela very well, and we worked together on some wonderful projects. We set up an organization called the Elders together. We tried to stop the invasion of Iraq by America and Britain, and came close, but didn't quite pull that off. He was president of South Africa. He was an extraordinary man, extraordinary reputation. There was one day he rang me up, I just got back from South Africa, and he said, "Richard, I want you on the next plane back to South Africa. The biggest health chain is about to go bust, and 4,000 people are going to be out of work, and I want you to come and save it. And when Mandela does that, you jump on a plane and go and save the health chain. And Virgin Active in South Africa is still going strong ever since. And so doing the right thing somehow works out in business as well.
How cool is that through your work and what you've built, you're able to answer calls like that and just help so many people very quickly?
It's it's a responsibility,
Aw.
and it's cool. So I think if you're in a position where you might be able to um, change a position for the better, you should try. I mean, like the last 2 days, we've been working on trying desperately to get politicians to change the
Mm-hmm.
approach to the war on drugs. The war on drugs has been going on now for 70 years. It's been an abject failure. Um, Prior to the war on drugs, there was the war on alcohol. Alcohol was illegal in America for 15 years. And Al Capone set up, the underworld took over. The alcohol that was being produced was dangerous. It was killing people. And we should have learnt from that. The drugs should be treated as a health problem, not a criminal problem. And the state should take control of it and make sure that all the misery that's caused by letting the underworld run the war on drugs goes away. And when I talk to individual politicians, they all agree, but they don't have the courage when they're in office. The word "the war on drugs" is something. Let's be tough. Let's sink a ship here. Let's sink a ship there. Let's drag people to prison there. And, let's attack countries in South America. All of that sounds good with the voters, but it's not going to actually end up creating less misery. Misery is caused by illegal drugs that are mixed with terrifying things that kill people, and so when we need to get back to a world that existed before the war on drugs started.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that. And to see that you are making sure that you can do your part here on Earth, it's really admirable. But also, you've been able to expand into space with Virgin Galactic, which is so cool. And you're saying one of the craziest and coolest things you've been able to get into. What are your thoughts on aliens?
Well, space is the best natural drug that you could ever experience. So that day I definitely was on a high, and I was high. they, they Aliens. Look, there's no question that in the universe there are thousands and thousands of other um, Earths out there that are full of people and full of aliens and full of life. Um, I think it's unlikely that they've ever actually reached our Earth, but I have an open mind to that because we are so far away from other places. But it is fascinating to realise that there will be literally millions of other planets out there with some kind of human beings on them. And one day we may well be able to find out ways of communicating with them.
Something that I learned was so funny is that you love pranks and good pranks, that you talked about doing a UFO prank.
Yeah, I love April Fool's Day, and I once, as you do, I built a UFO, and myself and a friend got into the UFO, and we took off at 4 a.m. on April Fool's Day, and we flew over London, and the whole of London got into a panic. All the radio stations lit up. As we were going down the motorway, all the cars stopped. Everybody was standing outside their cars looking up at us, and we landed in a foggy field outside Gatwick Airport, and the army had been called out. They surrounded us. We had two police forces surround us, and they sent in this one man with a truncheon, I think one policeman with a truncheon, and as he came towards us, we very slowly lowered the door, just like an ET, and we had dry ice pumping out. And then down the steps came this little ET figure that I brought on board, and this policeman just ran in the opposite direction, and I was then promptly arrested for wasting policemen in the army and everybody's time. But by the evening they saw the funny side of it, and all was well.
Were there any pranks that you tried to pull that flopped, or?
Yeah, I've had pranks that have backfired badly.
Wait, fact, really?
One time so badly that I ended up in prison for the night, from midnight till midnight the next day. And when I came out of the prison, all 300 members of my office were standing outside laughing their heads off, and the police were laughing their heads off. And they'd actually got the police to put me inside for the whole of April Fool's Day, and then they even let somebody come in to beat on the cell wall next door to me to make it sound like somebody was being beaten up in the cell next door.
Wait, so you got pranked?
I was completely pranked.
Who did that?
It was the person I tried to prank, and he got his own back big time, because again the police had been called in the other prank that had backfired, and they instead of anyway, to cut a long story short, I did get out at midday the next day.
So that person that pulled the prank on you, are they the best prankster you know?
I obviously don't know them anymore. No, they're still my best friend, and I think I've got my own back on occasions.
You've also said that trying to pick one of your favorite businesses is like trying to pick your favorite child. It's nearly impossible, but behind the closed doors, you will say that Virgin Atlantic is just something so incredible that you were able to succeed in. But it's also been one of the hardest ventures that you've had, and that's given you the most troubles. But through all that, even your David and Goliath moment with British Airways, you've been able to come out on top. What do you think was that real driver behind you not giving up, even in those moments where the only competition you had was just ruthlessly and just so unfairly trying to beat you down?
Yeah, so I don't see my businesses as businesses. I see them as, a group of people who are, who've given up other jobs to come and work for Virgin because they believe in Virgin. And so it's my job when one of our companies is under attack, which was Virgin Atlantic by British Airways, to fight tooth and nail to try to make sure it survived. And we took British Airways to court, and we won. We won a very celebrated court case against British Airways, where they, paid a lot of damages for the lengths they went to try to put us out of business. Virgin Atlantic did survive, and it is now grown into a really formidable airline, particularly across the Atlantic from places like New York. But I suppose my real affinity comes to our newest businesses. Is like having a new child, and Virgin Voyages is our new child, and she has got everything about the ship. The ships are very Virgin and a lot of fun, and I think people from Virgin Atlantic love to go on Virgin Voyages and vice versa. But Virgin Voyages is able, because it's our newest company, to embrace all the best bits of Virgin. So for today, since I'm on a Virgin voyage, Virgin, I don't think the people at Virgin Atlantic will mind. I will have Virgin Voyages as my favorite today.
And also the fact that we get to hang out on the ship tonight here in New York City. What is some New York City anthems or music that is on your Virgin Voyages Brilliant Lady playlist tonight?
Well, I'm sure that New York will ring out loud. So
Yeah.
it's anyway, you will see, and you can tell your viewers tomorrow what you heard.
Yes, we are so excited. And, we've had a lot of people inside of our Z100 Artist Interview Lounge, but thank you so much for the time and your spirit. You shared that one of the biggest impacts that you can give to the world is being a good parent. What have been some of your really proud dad or granddad moments that you can think of?
Um, so my grandkids, I mean, we're lucky. We're a very close family, and I've been with Joan 50 years this February, and it's worked. And we're very incredibly happy, very fortunate that we're still in love after all that time.
Mm.
But that's meant that's held Holly and Sam and all the grandkids together and all our friends together, and the grandkids know that I was a pirate. I was dumped on Necker Island, where we live, by bad pirates when I was a young man. That I single-handedly built Necker Island out, and so when I was going to space, one of my grandsons, Artie, came up to me and pulled me down to him and whispered in my ear, Papa, do you know you're going to be the very first pirate ever to go into space? And I will forever remember those words. They're now sadly a little bit older, and I'm not sure they still quite believe I'm a pirate, but that was very nice when they were 7 or 6 or 7 for them to believe that.
That is so cool. And just to wrap it up, you've been able to travel around the entire world. And me and my fiance, we're still trying to pick our honeymoon location. So what do you think is the most romantic place that you've traveled to that would be an iconic honeymoon destination?
Oh dear. When I think about traveling around the world, I'm thinking about ballooning, where I was lucky enough to fly a balloon over Mount Everest and K2 and down the Himalaya chain in an attempt to go around the world in a balloon.
Maybe something relaxing.
But back here on Earth, I mean, I don't know if you like game, but we have some beautiful game reserves in Africa, in Kenya and in South Africa, Mahali, Missouri, and Ulasaba, and that's something which we could talk off air about. But that would be a lovely place for a honeymoon. Bali, I used to love as a teenager, and that's another possible place. Although there's a lot of people go there, a lot of traffic now. Necker Island. We sometimes do celebration weeks for people who've got married, so that would be another option in the Caribbean. We have a beautiful place in Mallorca.
Yes.
Which is 3 miles of pristine coastline, very pretty, called Sombanola. I've tried in my lifetime to find some of these beautiful unspoiled spots, and then create really special, special little boutique hotels on them, and that's been a passion, something which I really love doing.
Thank you.
And you're getting married.
Yes.
How long have you been together?
It's going to be 3 years this November.
Okay. Well, what's his name?
Robert.
Robert, you're a lucky man.
Thank you, Richard. Lastly, from all of the years that you've been in business, what do you have to say to those people that have been showing you love and loyalty to the Virgin brand since your magazine at 16?
Well, just to say thanks for keeping us going, and on behalf of everybody who works for Virgin, we're very grateful. So thank you, and I think I'll look forward to bumping into you either on the streets of New York, or on a ship, or in the air, or maybe even be in space.
Whoa! Thank you so much, Sir Richard Branson.
Right. And best with the wedding.
Thank you.
And may you have lots of little virgins.
I know, praying for